They're averaging about 40 points a game. Defense is playing well, only giving up about 18. So they score in all quarters now. They score a bunch of points. They're a fast offense, a fast-moving offense. They have a running game also, rush it for about 200 yards. But they're a well-coached football team. Coach McIntyre's done a nice job up there now. I think it's his sixth season. I remember when he was at San Jose State and went up there and took over. And they got a nice program. They've played well the last 4 weeks. Very confident and a very, very good, solid football team. So we got our work cut out. Questions?
Hi, Coach. This is Ishmael from the State Press.
Sure.
You talked a lot about the defense having some issues emotionally during the last game. What are you going to plan to do to kind of solve that? And do you think that's one of the reasons why the road games have been so tough lately?
Emotions are emotions. How you handle them. They've had those emotions their whole life. You got to come to grips with them, especially as a unit. I just think there's going to be some negative plays. That's football. There's always negative plays, and how you react to those things, have a lot to do with the preceding plays that follow that. And I think we got into a second quarter last week that wasn't very good. Made some errors, and they made some plays as well, but didn't handle them very well. And then I thought we got out of it in the third quarter somewhat, and then in the fourth quarter did a really good job, only holding 7 points. So the emotions of a football game are up and down, and how you handle it in the huddle is very important. What guys in the huddle will get those guys regrouped, because the coaches can't do it when they're playing. I mean, you can do it on the sideline, but that's something that we've at times struggled with. Not a long series of times, but you can't let that affect how you play. Sure.
The air in Denver's den, that are his den, you do anything different with the players this week to get their body ready for the Denver air?
I don't talk about it. I've never talked about it. You just go play football. Nothing different. We're gonna play football. It's always been. I've played up there numerous times. I've coached teams up there. I never was an issue. So everybody else makes an issue. I think Camp T is pretty elevated. I mean, I don't know. Make it an issue if you talk about it. We don't talk about it. We're just going to play the Buffaloes. They're 4-0.
Tim.
Coach, with the benefit of a few days hindsight, how would you put Eno's rushing performance in perspective?
It was magnificent. When you think about what he accomplished, and I mean some of the awards that he's receiving this week, rightly deserved. I thought when you watched the tape, he did a great job of really making yards once he was hit. I mean, he was hit a couple times. Everything wasn't clean, but he made yards after the contact. And that's what good backs do. He had tremendous balance. He just ran at a different level. I mean, he broke tackles. Now the offensive line blocked well. They had the whole thing going. They had it going. It's fun to watch when you sit over there defensively and, as a head coach, and you go, every time we run it, we're making 5 yards. Why don't we stop running it? Just keep running it. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you run it almost 50 times. But when you're running that well, and it helps you when you struggle some. When they got some momentum, it was very important that we ran the ball just so our defense could collect itself. And there comes a point in the game, and for us it was about the third quarter, that it was managing the clock again. I'm looking at the clock, and I'm telling Manny and those guys, it's time to milk the clock. Just don't snap it until 5 seconds. We're not in a hurry. We're going to run the ball. We'll take some shots down the field every once in a while, but our intentions was to continue to run the ball and play the clock. You got a 3-score lead, play the clock. That's what you do. You don't just trying to keep scoring to be scoring. Just let's get out of here. Let's play the clock. Let the clock run down, and that's kind of our mindset. I think the players know me by now. In situations, they know what I'm going to ask them. I mean, Coach Likens actually asked on one of the series, can I throw it deep? I said, not on the first play. You can't throw it deep. No, run the ball. I said, when you cross the 50, I'll let you throw another pass. But right now, let's just run the ball and let's manage the clock, because it's not about the opponent so much. It's really about the clock now. How do we manage it? How do we take it down offensively? Every time you make a first down, it's 3 minutes off the clock. Just get the game going. Let's go. We don't want to make this a 5-hour game. I want to go home.
Doug and then Hope. Doug Howler with The Athletic. Herm, you've mentioned several times that a strong rushing game and strong defense travel. Are there any other ingredients or factors of a team in your experience that help a team have success on the road?
Just the mentality of it, and I think I've always enjoyed going on the road with teams and even a player. You just feel like it's no one there but you. There's going to be some fans that they let in. Not going to have good seats. Can't hardly hear them. But they're there, and I just think that it's you have that mentality, when you go on the road, that it's going to be tough, it's going to be loud. I've always said this, especially to the offensive coordinators: hey, call whatever you want. You won't get booed. You're on the road. They don't boo you on the road. They don't care what you call. They don't care if you go 3 and out 3 times in a row. Nobody boos you. At home, what are you doing? On the road, nobody cares. The fans are like clapping. They don't watch you. They just kind of watch their team. And so that's the mentality I have always taken on the road, that it's a fun environment. The fans are in an uproar, and you know it. And the emotions of the crowd is really, it takes on the personality of their team that's playing. If their team is really going, the crowd gets all anchored up. If their team kind of settles down, you saw it in this game. When they scored on us, all of a sudden the crowd got kind of quiet at home, because they're like, uh-oh, what's going on here, right? And but that's the fun of it. That's football. I mean, you understand that. I sensed it. I went, okay, here we go. We better get going and get our crowd back in the game, and so it puts the onus on you, the home team. Because when the crowd loses its luster and their energy, because some things bad are happening, you got to get them cranked back up. So that's part of it. That's how I've always looked at it anyway.
Hood Rubino, Devil's Digest. Do you feel there's something to be said that when you have such a dominating rushing game that maybe it takes somewhat of a toll on the passing game? And I know Manny Wilkins wasn't 100%, and he still threw 3 passing touchdowns, but there's something to be said that as much as you want the balance, that sometimes one aspect of the offense or the other just takes over so much that the other aspect has to suffer?
It can, but here again, the object is to win the game. It's not about stats. It's never been about stats for me. It's win. How do you win? And if you have a formula that's winning and you're controlling the game, why would you get away from that? I mean, that's kind of how it works. It's almost like offensively, they have this smorgasbord of plays, offensive coordinators. If you ever look at their list, it's like, wow, you can order from every restaurant in Arizona, because they got all kind of plays. And I've always said this, as they're calling the plays, I have the chart too, and I'm kind of watching it, and I go, that play you ran like 4 plays ago? Yeah, coach. I said, that was really a good play. You can actually run that again. You don't have to order everything on the menu. Just run the plays that work. Make them stop it. It's amazing. Sometimes football is this game of, have they stopped it yet? No. Well, then why did we stop running it? Because of what? Because you got these other plays? Just keep running that one, and it kind of works. And if you do that, you'd be surprised what happens.
Coach, who in your eyes has been the most consistent? Which players offensively and defensively have they over the last few games?
I don't do that. I don't get into, praising players. That's you folks. You watch them. I don't get into that. When the award for Eno is well deserved, the offensive line is a part of that, but I don't get into, calling players out, whether they play well or not well. That's not my job. I mean, I tell them personally, but I don't get into all that stuff. There's too many emotions when you get into that. Why didn't they mention me, coach? Just play good and win, and everybody gets credit, right? That's what happens. That's how I look at it.
Can you go into a little more detail on the offensive line and what's happened the last 2 weeks? I mean, Casey Tucker's out this past game, and you still are just pounding away. What do you see is going on with the line? We
got a collection of about 7 guys that can rotate, and Coach Christian's done a fabulous job with those guys. And linemen they're a really tight bunch. They're the smartest guy collectively as a group on any football team. If you go in the room and you watch how they operate, they're just They're just a different group. And I know that because when I first got into pro football as a scout, I sat in the offensive line room to learn how to evaluate offensive linemen, you know, and what it took to play in the league. And so you've been around a lot of guys, been around a lot of great offensive line coaches as well. And they're a funny group now. And they stick together. You know, they have their own little rituals, how they do things, where they sit. You know, they got the fine schedule in pro football, all these things that they do together. But I think they all understand that the only way the offense can function is them playing well. And it starts with the run game, because everything feeds off the run game. When you can run the football, the passing lanes open up. It forces people to play 8 guys in the box. And now you get some one-on-one coverage outside, and we've got some good receivers where you can throw them the football. And that kind of happened in this game. You know, you get into games where they play certain coverages, and all of a sudden you keep running it, and you come back to keep running it. Eventually the coordinator sits over there and says, look, I can't keep playing soft shells. I gotta add a guy in the box. You add the guy in the box, now the pass opens up. So that's how it works. And for those guys, you know, running the power and the counter and running some zone, we have what we want to run now. We know what we're going to run, how we change it around every week. That's the beauty of it. But it's going to be, we're going to run the football. And I just think that, I said that when I first got here. You got to run the ball. And first game or so, we ran it okay, but we had a lot of big explosion plays. I think the last couple of weeks, you've kind of seen what we're going to become, not just now, but as long as I sit in this seat. Wherever I've been, we've had running backs. We're going to run the ball. I mean, when I was in New York, I had Curtis Martin. He led the league in rushing. He won a rushing title. When I was in Kansas City, I was fortunate enough to have Larry Johnson. He won the rushing title. It's not by accident. I grew up in an era where running the football was important, you know. So I just feel that when you run the ball, there's some toughness about you. It travels well, along with defense. It just does. Because it doesn't take a whole lot to turn around and give it to the guy. You can't, it's really hard to mess that one up. To turn around, just give it to him. Say, here, go. And the ball's not heavy. So the guy can carry it. And if we can block him, then the guy's going to run. And, you know, from there, everything else opens up. That's my philosophy. That's what I believe in. And maybe because of the coaches that I've been under my career as a player and as assistant coach. You know, I came in the league with Dick Vermeil, and we ran the ball in Philadelphia. And I worked for Marty, and Marty had all those big backs, you know, Christian Okoye, Barry Word. I mean, had all those guys. Then we ended up getting Marcus Allen. And we had Joe Montana, and we still ran the ball. We had Joe Legend. So, you know, in Tampa with Tony, we had all starting work done. We ran the football. And in New York, I was fortunate enough to have a great back, really good offensive line. We ran it same way in Kansas City. So I just like running, man. It's fun to watch when you knock people down and you run it. You know, it's just, some people don't like it because it's boring. You know, they want to see the ball fly in the air. And I get it. You throw it in there every once in a while, but just run it, man. See what happens.
One more thing. Do you expect the guys that were out this week, you know, Tucker and Wilson and Daz, do you think you might have them?
We're hoping so. We're hopeful, yeah. And that they'll get some practice time in this week and obviously get to play. And that's another thing, you know, we've had some guys go down, and there's been some guys. Soley had to play a lot last week, and good for him. He came in and did a yeoman's job at the offensive line as well. That thing's been moving around every week. It seems like we got different guys, and that's a credit to the room and to Dave. He's done a really good job with those guys.
Chris and then Doug. Herm back here. Chris Carmen, son of a source. The parity of the Pac-12 South. It seems like every game the magnitude is pretty significant given what's going on in the conference. Can you just speak to that in the division? Yeah,
I think it's a conference that when you look at, it's kind of back and forth. You know, everybody's kind of back and forth. And Colorado now, you know, they're 4-0. They've won 4 games in a row, and they're playing well. And you know, SC's kind of found its way back. You know, they're kind of playing. And so you know, it's every game's important when you get in your conference. And we're in the South, and we realize that this is an opponent that's a good football team. We got to go on the road and play them. I mean, it's an important game because it is a conference game, as well as in the South. It helps you to understand the importance of it. So It's unique. I mean, sitting from afar watching this conference, you know, because I'm a West Coast guy, and even though I was in Bristol, I always keep up with the West Coast teams. It's a unique conference. It just, you never know. You just watch it, you know. Like I said, there's been 4 teams that have been pretty consistent the last 3 years. We know who they are. We talked about how many games they win a year. And they seem to always find their way in the conference when things start heating up. So it's going to be fun for me going through this. I'll find out a lot about the conference, the players, you know, because I'm not familiar with the teams as much. Kind of watch them from afar, but now you study them. You sit there, study film, you watch the players, you understand the personality of the coaches. And that takes a while because I haven't played these guys. You know, a couple years from now, I'll know it. I'll know it really well. I'll know all the personnel. I'll know the kids they're recruiting. That has something to do with it as well. You know, that helps you when you're in a conference like in the NFL. You know, I was in the NFC East, and then I coached in the different conferences, and you realize you got to unstudy your conference, and you study your division. You know, who's in your division, and you build to play in your division, right? That's how you go out and recruit. Well, that's how you go out and draft people, and you know who coaches are, and you know who the assistant coaches are, and you know the systems. Well, I'm just learning this. It's my first run through the conference, but I'm a pretty good quick study, and I study it, and I'll do my homework when the season's over with and know more about the conference and the players and the coaches. And then as far as recruiting, you know, what players they're recruiting. A lot of us are recruiting the same players, and that's kind of interesting as well. So it's fun because I'm learning something every time I play a game in this conference and every time I go against a coach and the players they recruited, and that's, you know, that's how you process information.
Doug and then Paul and then Blake. Herm, just to piggyback off that, I was going to ask you about that too. How, not only for you, but for a lot of your staff, you're going through this for the first time in the conference, and you don't have, like Mike McIntyre has been around for a while. He knows the conference well. How big of a disadvantage is that, and how much can you kind of negate that with just film study? Well,
you film study it, but I think when you know other people's personnel and you played against them, that's a big factor. You know, you know, you kind of know who they are. You know, it's like you set up your whole plan of playing those teams. And it's like an NFL. You know, we're playing Buffalo. Okay, here they are. Here's what they do schematically. How are we going to attack them? And the same way they look at you. Look, people are looking at us, excuse me, and going, what are they? They got the same problem because they're saying, what are they? Are they this run team now? What are they? What are they on defense, right? So for everybody, I think when you're the new coach, you're trying to learn them, but they're also trying to learn you. They're going, well, how does he coach? You know, when the game starts, how does he coach the game, right? I mean, Coach McIntyre likes to go fast every once in a while. They're going to go fast. I get that. I see that on tape. I watched it. I go, okay, let's go fast. Okay, what are we going to do to stop that? Okay, then I'm thinking, okay, how do we not go fast? Well, offensively, how can we help our defense? You know, all those things. But you don't know until you play them, and then you get a pretty good feel, and then you learn.
And also, real quick, C.J. French Love hasn't been around. What's his status?
No, he's going to redshirt. We're going to redshirt him. So, yeah.
For injury reasons, or?
He's just redshirting.
He's redshirting,
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Coach, one thing that you mentioned a lot was the road record and how that's the one thing that you want to turn around. When you're going up to play this game, do you even mention that to the team, or is it just another game and you attack it that way?
Well, you know, I think they've heard it enough. Hopefully I don't have to remind them. But it's a conference opponent, and I think that's more important than anything. Happens to just be on the road. But that's something we got to improve on. I mean, if you're going to win games, and you're going to be a team that's trying to win the Pac-12 championship, you're going, you know, you don't get to play them all at home. I mean, you got to go on the road and play, and then we're going to have to build that mentality up to know that you got to win road games. I mean, when you win road games, you know, we always felt you won a road game against a conference opponent. It's in your division, in your conference. We felt it was a game and a half because you beat them at home. You know, that's big. You go in there, so we got to start, you know, winning on the road. That's important.
Coach, you mentioned that they have a receiver that is very similar to Nikhil. How do you combat that with your defense? Well,
I'm not going to give you the game plan. We're going to know where he lines up. I know he's number 2. He's big, strong, physical. They move him all over the place. They really do. Run him on bubbles. He runs inside on slide. I mean, he does everything. He caught a big pass against UCLA, 50-something plus. They were in casino. They were in a casino blitz. You know, casinos, no free safety, no help, no area. All my cards were on the table. Yeah, you threw them on the table. Guess what? They had more aces. Touchdown. He beat the guy right down the middle. You know, so he's a very good player. Plays with a lot of energy too. I like the way he plays. He's big. He's about 6'3". 220 or something like that, so he's hard to tackle. You know, he's a really good football player.
Luke Lipinski, Arizona Sports.
Sure.
That mentality of milking the clock in the second half as opposed to just trying to outscore teams 50-45 or whatever, do you find that's more common in the NFL than maybe it is in college?
Yeah, because most coordinators want to score. And you worry about college games, you know, because you always feel like you can't score enough because people spread you out. And they throw it so much, you know, you feel like, oh, I got to score more points. Yeah, that's the mentality, somewhat. But I think, you know, how do you win a game? That's more important to me than anything. I don't know if you could say it's, you know, NFL deal. It's not NFL. How do you win a game? That's all I care about. And if you have to throw it 50 times, then throw it 50 times if they allow you to do it. But when you can run the ball, I do know this, you control the game. You flat control it because that other team has to sit there and wait until you give them the ball back. And if you can run it, and then throw a pass or two like we did in the game and hit some, it puts the burden on them because here's what happens to you as an offensive guy. You have to get out of your game plan. We've just forced you to do something you might not want to do on the road and throw it. Why? Because you're looking at the clock and going, if they keep running this ball the way they're doing it, I'm not going to get my 17 possessions. I'm only going to get 11 because they're taking 6 minutes off this clock every time. And if you looked at the second half, that was my intentions. They're not getting it back a whole lot. A little bit because our defense was, you know, kind of shaky there, and I had to let them calm down. So just help us now. This is what we're going to do, and you just stay on the field for a while. I want you to score. Not saying I don't want you to score, but you just keep 40-second clock. You saw Manny, he had the call. He wouldn't hike the ball. He knew. Get it all the way down. Get it all the way. That's all I was working. All I looked at was the 40-second clock. And when it got down to 3 seconds, I said, hike the ball. And if you make a first down, I'm really happy now because there's another 3 minutes going to go off the clock, you know, if you just keep doing that. So, yeah, that's just my mentality. That's how I learned how to coach. You know, I've been around a lot of really good coaches, and hopefully I've learned some things from them. And there comes a point in the game where it's the clock. You play the clock, and you understand that. And I think there's sometimes when you're struggling in certain areas, if you can run the ball, that kind of calms everybody down. You can coach on the sideline, get them ready. You know, you'd hate to be in a game where, and I've seen it, you know, they get a score, and you feel a little nervous, and you come out, and you throw 3 passes. And 15 seconds just went off the clock, and you punt. That's what I call bad ball. You're playing right into the hands of the opponent. You can't do that. You just can't. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. Okay? That's just me. That's just you. We're not going down that road, boys. You're not going to throw 3 passes, and it's 15 seconds off the clock, and we're going, what are we doing here? You know, you can't do that. So It's complementary football. That's what football is. It's complementary. The 3 components have to help everyone. And you got to watch the game with your eyes, and you look at it, and you go, where are we struggling? How can I help those guys? How can I help these guys? It's very important. You know, I thought the critical play was end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, we make a stop on the 5-yard line. They score, become one-score game. We go 94 yards. We go 94 yards, and we score. Game over, right? Momentum changed. We took 6 minutes off the clock. All of a sudden, we're in the fourth quarter, and there's 4 minutes left, and you're going, okay, we're good now. That's just me. But that's my job. You know, that's the head coach's job. You got to make those decisions, and you got to be on the headset and say, here's what we're doing. Call whatever you want, but this is what I want. Just throw all those sheets away. This is what I want now. Okay, we got it, coach. got you, coach. Go. That's how it works.
Coach, how, in your opinion, has Coach Likens left his imprint on your offense through the first 5 games of the season?
He is, boy, I tell you what, if you could just hear what happens on headphones. He's an emotional guy. I love him. I do. I love him. And, you know, every offensive coordinator thinks every play's supposed to work. They just do. They just like, there's no one out there. Yeah, there's a defense out there. They don't all work. And so he gets emotionally going, and then every once in a while I got to go, Coach. And then I talk real soft, and then he goes, oh, yeah. Because he goes, I mean, that poor desk up there is getting beat up because he's, pow, you hit the desk in my ear. Ooh, he's going right now. And then he gets mad at a player or two, and I go, calm down, Coach. He's one of our best players. You can't get mad at him right now. He's going to be fine. And then you get into the game. You go, okay, what are we doing? And then you tell him, we're going to do this. Okay, we're good. And then it's almost like he has this tantrum for about 5 seconds. And then he lets it go and he lets it out. And the one time I was calling for him, and Nate told me, he says he just took his headphones off. He's on the back wall, and he's pounding the wall. I said, well, get him back. I got to ask him a question. So he comes back, and he's okay. And he comes back, and he says, are you okay? I'm okay now, Coach. All right, well, let's get to the next back. Let's get to the next series. But he's done a good job. He really has. Because, when you think about it, it's hard to be a coordinator when you have so many players that you feel like you want them to touch the ball. How do you go about that? We got to get one the ball. Everyone knows that. But then Eno's running. So how does that work? That's hard. It's just you got a lot of gifted players, and they got to touch the ball, and it's hard. It's hard being an offensive coordinator.
On the other side of the run equation, where do you think the defensive line is right now, and just the run defense in general?
Yeah, here's where they are. When we have it in control, I think our gap responsibilities are sound. Because we move so much, our line doesn't sit still. It's moving. It's just always stunting and twisting and all that stuff. When they miss the wrong gap, and the safety saying it's supposed to be in the B gap, and all of a sudden there's 2 guys sitting in the B gap, and it hits through the A, we got a problem. And so that's what happened. And it happens sometimes. It's happened almost every week where we get a little bit out of whack. In other words, our responsibilities. We didn't contain it a couple times on the breakout. We had enough guys in the box. We didn't contain it a couple times when it got on the edge. We wrong shouldered the play. You got to leave your outside shoulder free, and we didn't. We attacked the play with the wrong shoulder, and it gets outside, and the corner gets blocked, and we got a big run. And so we've got to do a better job of that. And I think it's for the most part, when we're going good, it's pretty to watch. It really is, because it's hard to block. It puts the offense at a disadvantage because you got guys moving. The guy that's standing in front of you, you're knowing he's probably not going to come right now. He's probably going to leave, and somebody else is coming. So when it's orchestrated, it's tough.